this episode, we are going to talk about a place that was built by a mouse, but was run by a rat on the day that we went. So, stick around. Hello friends, and welcome to my side of the laundry room. My name's Rob, and in this episode we are continuing our Disney World Week celebration here at the channel. In this episode we will be talking about our second day in the parks, and that was going to the wonderful Epcot. Our day began back at the cabin at Fort Wilderness. We woke up, ate some breakfast, and quickly got online to get into the virtual queue line, or whatever it's called. It was very easy, yet very confusing at the same time. It was very easy because you just open up your Disney app, click on the virtual line, and it knows where you're going that day, so it tells you, hey, you want to ride Ratatouille? Here you go. I clicked on it, and luckily we were able to get into the virtual line at number 120. Which was surprising considering it was like 7:01 and we were already that far within the line. Now, we had no idea what that meant, but we kinda guesstimated things as the day went on, and I'll kinda explain that as we go on. But anyway, we get ready, jump in the car, and drive to Epcot. Now, I'm not sure if I mentioned it when we talked about the Magic Kingdom in the last episode, but Fort Wilderness had a boat that took us to Magic Kingdom. This time, we drove to Epcot. This was our first time driving to one of the parks. And I really hate starting things off on a small, minuscule, negative note, but I will, because it was something that kind of affected us and kind of ticked us off to start the day. We've kind of had a spotty track record with Epcot, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, we show up and it is, I forget what time, but it's 5 minutes before the parking lots open, which ends up being like an hour before the park opens. Well, for us, because we stayed at a Disney resort, we were allowed to get in a half an hour early. But we show up and they told us to go away, that we were not able to even just hang out around the, ticket booth or whatever you want to call it to park, even though there was no one else around. They shoot us away, and what kind of ticked us off was the attitude of the woman at the counter, but also the guy in the booth next to her is clapping and cheering her on for making us go away. We thought that was very poor manners of a cast member, and I hate to be that way. I don't want to sound like a Karen or the male equivalent of that, but that kind of ticked us off, considering the only way to get back around is to get back on the freeway, go up and around the exits and all, and come back in around. So we ultimately didn't get there when it opened. We showed up late, which no big deal, but it just kind of put a damper on the start of the day. Anyway, like I said, I hate starting with something negative like that, so let's get on to the good stuff. Now, got through security fine. That's usually our hang-up at Epcot. For some reason, they have the most strictest and nastiest security that we've come across at Disney. Sorry, I don't mean to be negative. I take that back. Sorry about that. Anyway, we got in line and were ushered through, and we end up waiting in another line until everything officially opens. And we are in between a lot of construction walls, and now I'm probably way off, maybe not, but I believe on the one side it was the new Guardians of the Galaxy ride, which super excited about that. And I think on the other one may have been the new Moana experience, attraction, ride. I'm not sure what it is, the Living with the Seas thing. So either way, I love Moana, so I'm excited about that as well, even though I don't know that much about it. Anyway, so we wait there, and the plan is to quickly get to Test Track, because we know that's one of the most popular rides there, and we want to get there, do the line thing early in the morning before we get all fatigued and grumpy, when we're still fresh and bushy-tailed and excited, and you know, when waiting in line doesn't really feel that bad because you're just so pumped up. Anyway, we noticed that pretty much everyone else there is doing the same thing. So when they finally dropped the rope, or however you want to say it, we all kind of, I mean, some people ran. We were walking at a nice leisurely pace and not being jerks. But we got there, the line moved very quick, and we rode Test Track, and it was great. One of our favorite rides at Epcot, if not the whole Disney World experience. Definitely within the top 10. So we ride Test Track, we have a good time, and the next thing is to head to World Showcase. Now, one of the things that we've done in the past is just kind of keep things in a very linear manner. You know, like I've said before, we would do the touring plans website and make up these plans, plan our fast passes to be very linear. But without that, we just we broke rank a lot and just hurried to the specific rides and attractions we wanted when we could, and doubled back if lines were too crazy and blah blah blah. So we ended up going to the Frozen ride next. That's probably the second most popular ride at the moment, other than Ratatouille, but we'll get to that, that we get into. So we get into the line and we start checking the virtual queue, and we notice that, you know, I think it's 1 through 6 have opened up. So I'm like, okay, we at least have something to build off of. We're going to do some math. So 1 through 6 open by this time. We'll check it in a little bit and see where they're at, and try to deduce a time frame to when we should be up in France checking things out. So we ride Frozen, again, one of our favorite rides at Epcot, if not the whole Disney World experience. Have a good time. And I think by this time, since Epcot opens a tad bit later than the other parks, it might have been around lunchtime at this point. I'm a little hazy on the actual time frames, but we ended up going to the Grand Fiesta. Is that what it's called? Yes, Grand Fiesta tour with the 3 Caballeros. One of my personal favorites because I love Donald and I love all the characters of 3 Caballeros. So we do the ride, and my wife is able to secure us some reservations for lunch at the restaurant there. I totally forget what the actual restaurant's name is. I believe it has Angel in the title. I'm a horrible Disney correspondent because I can't remember that part of it, but I always just say it's the 3 Caballeros restaurant. So we were able to do the 3 Caballero ride. By the time we got off, our table was ready. Zip, pim, pow, we were seated, had a wonderful meal. That is the one thing I have to say about this trip. Since we didn't have a dining plan because they're non-existent, we tried a lot of new things and we really enjoyed it. The kids, not so much, but we did as adults, trying new types of food and new types of restaurants. See, this is where my recollection gets a little bit fuzzy, because I can't remember if it was before or after the 3 Caballeros that we did Journey into Imagination, which we love doing. We love Figment. Ever since I was a kid in the 80s when he was unveiled, I always loved him. Granted, I missed out on the original ride that he was on. That was unfortunately long gone by my first trip to Disney. So I love him in the Journey to Imagination because I don't have any other experience to draw from. So anyway, we did the ride, we loved it, and I think we went to 3 Caballeros next. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We then ended up at Soarin and Living with the Land. Love Soarin. Living with the Land is just a nice, relaxing, insightful journey into the inner workings of Disney's agriculture and the cool things that they do. I really enjoy it, and it is like an Epcot classic, so I feel like you have to at least ride it once when you're there. In the middle of all that, I was checking back on the virtual queue numbers and seeing that it would jump up a bunch, then it would slow down a bunch. Jump up a bunch, then slow down a little bunch. Which I would maybe attribute to the ride problems, maybe, or just the amount of people in the lines that they, sometimes the lines went fast, sometimes not. I think it was the ride breaking down, and we will get to that when we talk about when we finally get on Ratatouille. Okay, after Soarin and Living with the Land, my wife decides, hey, I want to do Mission to Space. And the plan was she would ride it and come back and get me, and I would go ride it. So she went off on her way. Me and the kids walked around a little bit, got them some ice creams, and we just kind of hung out and waited for my wife to get off the ride. Unfortunately, when she did get off the ride, she had a horrible experience. Now, I've always heard that the Mission to Space was an intense ride, and we never really knew why. We just assumed it was like a roller coaster and it was extreme in that manner. Apparently it wasn't. It was simulated 0 G's, blasting off into space, and for some reason with her motion sickness and everything, it affected her very badly. It kind of affected her for the rest of our day at Epcot, which kind of stunk and kind of felt bad for her. So after we did regroup, we headed to the ball and did Spaceship Earth, which again is just a classic. It really needs some upkeeping. The train cars just kind of clunked and clattered and made a lot of noise as it went. The animatronics and effects, were great as usual, but it was just the ride itself just seemed very clunky and it might need a little bit of TLC. But we enjoyed it all the same. So after that, we headed into the World Showcase and walked around for a little bit, waiting for Ratatouille, because the numbers were finally rising to 90, 100, and boom, it's time for us to get there. So we rushed to France. Kind of got a little confused to where the ride actually was, because it's kind of back and behind a building, but once you enter the Ratatouille courtyard, it's amazing. It looks just like the movie. They even had props of the Vespas and stuff out front, and the restaurant looked grand like it did in the movie. So that was really cool. Now the thing that we didn't expect was the line. In our minds, we thought that this virtual line thing that you show up and they usher you right on. Oh no. We still waited an additional hour in line. And with that, we missed our dinner reservations, which kind of stunk. But we'll get to that later. So, we wait in line. I think my wife didn't enjoy it so much. The kids, of course, did not enjoy it, but I didn't mind the line. I felt like it moved fast, even though it was a long wait. We were constantly moving, which makes the whole experience feel a little bit better as you're moving. There's not a lot of downtime of just, standing there. So we go through the lines. It's like in the building, out of the building, back into the building, into the pre-show, which was really cool because they had the, and I'm horrible with names, but it had the ghost of the chef, came to life on the big, neon sign, just like in the movie. A lot of neat stuff to listen to or look at. Even the wallpaper, I'll throw a picture of that up, that looked really cool. And, there's parts of it that look like you're actually outside, like on rooftops, which was neat. Parts where you look like you're in the restaurant. Parts where it looks like you're just in a nondescript, Parisian building of some sort. So anyway, we finally get on the ride, and the cars look very cute. I'd heard that they look like mice, but to see them in real life is just amazing. They are so cute looking. And we get in line, the group, in front of us gets in their car, and nothing happens. We hear walkie-talkie chatter, we hear announcements, stuff that we can't make out because it's very loud in there. Everyone's talking at the same time, so we don't really get the gist of what's going on. We just know the ride has broken down. And we wait probably an additional 20 to 30 minutes until those people that have been sitting in that mouse, the doors close and they zip off. Everyone cheers, yay! Wait a couple minutes, another mouse pulls up and we hop in. Or rat, I guess, since it's Ratatouille. We get into the car, doors close, and we sit there. Probably another 15 minutes, but it wasn't hateful because we're actually sitting. And it's air conditioned inside, so can't be hating, just a nice time to relax. So it finally goes, everyone cheers, and it's a very fun ride. I mean, it's 3D, you need to wear 3D glasses, and there's a lot of neat little effects going on. They do very well with the screens and the 4D effects that make it feel like things are happening that really aren't, because the car isn't going down a steep window pane into the kitchen. You just know it's how it's filmed and how the wind effects and everything, but it was fun. I mean, there's even a part where a giant mop comes swinging at you and you feel the water hit you. Everyone laughed, everyone enjoyed it. It was very fun. I think on the big scale of things, it was a fun ride. Definitely not one of our favorites, but we'll always ride it when we go because it just seems like a fun experience. So we get off the ride, we do a photo pass op there in the courtyard, and then we head to the restaurant and just plead our case that we were waiting in line, the ride broke down, and the restaurant we went to was the Coral Reef, which is famous for having a whole wall that is an aquarium. So they were like, no problem, come right in, which shocked us. We were seated, we had our meal, we were tired by this time, so it was nice to sit and relax. I drank my iced tea, the kids got to have a little sundae with their meal. It was just a nice experience, and it was fun to look at the sharks and stuff in the aquarium part of it. It was just a nice experience, and it's a really nice restaurant. So from that, we did Nemo and Friends, looked at the aquarium, watched the dolphins for a while, and we were ready to call it a night, other than one last thing that my daughter really wanted to do, and that was to head to Japan, which I wanted to do anyway, because we didn't get to walk the whole World Showcase by this time. So we headed to Japan, and she wanted to go to the store that's there. I forget the name of it, but it has a great selection of anime toys and t-shirts and Godzilla stuff that unfortunately none of it was in my size. Someone picked through it and got all the husky sizes before I got there, and they got to walk around there. They picked up some really cool, Japanese stuffed animals, and it was just fun. And we got a cool photo op outside of that because the Epcot ball had really cool lighting effects for the 50th anniversary. So it's a really cool picture from Japan through the arch there with the ball in the background. Turned out really awesome, really neat picture. So from there, we walked the World Showcase, did a little bit of shopping, and called it a day. It was a very full day from the moment they opened to the moment they closed, because the fireworks were going off as soon as we got into the car. Of course, I always regret missing the fireworks, but it's really nice to get a jump on the traffic before everyone else is rushing out. So anyway, that was our trip to Epcot, and I enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down below, please hit subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, and stay dorky!